On December 7th, 2013, Jimmy Nielsen stood in goal with the championship on the line. It was freezing in Kansas City. The match had gone 120 minutes, and Nielsen was playing with 2 broken ribs. Now the MLS Cup would be decided by penalties. For most of his life, Nielsen had been drawn to moments like this, moments where everything could change in seconds. But football was not the only place where he chased that feeling. Years before he became a captain in America, Nielsen was living a very different life. He was one of Denmark's best goalkeepers. He had won a league title, individual awards, and the respect of his country. But behind all of it, he was gambling so much that almost nobody knew how close he was to losing it all. Nielsen was born in Aalborg, Denmark in 1977. He grew up wanting to become a goalkeeper and joined the youth system of his hometown club, Aalborg BK. Tall, loud, and confident, Nielsen stood out quickly. In Denmark, people naturally compared young goalkeepers to Peter Schmeichel, and for a while, Nielsen looked like someone who might follow that path. At 17, he got a chance in England with Millwall, but it didn't work out. He never played for Millwall's first team and soon returned home to Aalborg. At first, it may have looked like a failed move. Instead, it became the start of his real breakthrough. Nielsen became Aalborg's starting goalkeeper while still in his early 20s. In 1998, he was named Denmark's Goalkeeper of the Year. 1 year later, Aalborg won the Danish League title. Nielsen was only 21. He had gone from struggling to break through in England to becoming a champion in Denmark. And at that age, it was easy to believe more success would keep coming. But around the same time, gambling was starting to take over. In his early 20s, Nielsen traveled to Las Vegas with his girlfriend Yanni. At first, it felt like a dream. He sat down at a roulette table and started winning. Within a few hours, he was up around $20,000. Nielsen went back to the hotel room, woke Yanni, and showed her the cash. The two of them jumped on the bed, throwing money into the air. For a young footballer, it must have felt like proof that he could not lose. He was winning on the pitch, and now he was winning at the casino too. But then he went downstairs, and slowly all the money disappeared. First, he lost most of the winnings. Then he pulled out around $30,000 in Danish currency that he had secretly brought with him. Yanni didn't even know it existed, and he lost that too. Later, he asked Yanni for the code to the hotel safe. She was half asleep and she gave it to him. The next day, she gave him a credit card for normal spending. He gambled with that as well. Eventually, Yanni locked herself in the bathroom. Nielsen stood outside asking her to slide the card under the door. He was only around 20 years old, and even then he later wrote he was already sick in the head from gambling. That trip should have scared him into stopping. Instead, it showed him how powerful gambling could feel. Back in Denmark, Nielsen's football career kept moving. He became one of Aalborg's most reliable players and eventually made more than 300 appearances for the club. In 2004, he was named Denmark's Goalkeeper of the Year for the second time. From the outside, his career looked strong, but supporters were only seeing half the story. Away from football, the bets were getting bigger. Nielsen liked sports betting and roulette. Sometimes he won huge amounts. He says he once won around $500,000 in one night. The next night, he went back and lost around $350,000 of it. That was the trap. Winning did not make him stop. It gave him money to keep going. Losing did not make him stop either. It made him feel like he needed one more bet to fix everything. As the addiction grew, so did the lies. He hid losses from Yanni. He borrowed from banks and private lenders. At first, he tried to keep his football money separate from his gambling money. Eventually, there was no separation left. By 2004, the same year he was named Denmark's best goalkeeper, Nielsen was close to financial collapse. He and an Aalborg teammate, David Nielsen, had been placing large bets through a local bookmaker. Jimmy owed him around $60,000, but that was only part of it. Across banks and private lenders, his total debt had grown past $250,000. He had emptied his own bank account. Then he emptied the savings account he shared with Yanni. The money from his football career was gone, and he had run out of people willing to lend him more. Nielsen still searched for one last solution. When Aalborg won the league in 1999, the club had given players bonuses. Nielsen had used some of that money to buy shares in the team. He believed that if the bookmaker waited 3 more weeks, he could sell the shares and combine that money with his next wage. So Jimmy and David drove to the betting shop and asked for more time. The bookmaker told them he needed the money the next day. 2 days later, the shop closed. Their unpaid bets had left him unable to meet his own obligations. Then, the story reached the Danish press. Nielsen had less than 2 days to call the people closest to him before they read about it in the newspapers. One by one, he called his parents, his wife, and his friends. His message was simple. Most of what they were about to read was true. For years, Nielsen had kept his two lives separate. and now they have finally collided. He entered treatment more than once. The first attempts did not last. It eventually took a third attempt at rehab before Nielsen felt he had moved beyond the worst of the addiction. His football career continued, but the path was no longer smooth. In 2007, after more than a decade at Aalborg, Nielsen left the club. He briefly joined Leicester City, but once again never played a competitive first-team game in England. He returned to Denmark with Vejle. By his early 30s, the goalkeeper once compared to Denmark's greats looks close to the end of his career. Then came an unexpected chance. In 2010, Nielsen moved to the United States and joined the Kansas City Wizards. For Nielsen, it could have been one final contract before retirement. Instead, Kansas City became the place where his life and career finally came together. Nielsen became the starting goalkeeper right away. In his first season, he recorded 10 clean sheets and was named the team's Defensive Player of the Year. Fans gave him the nickname the White Puma. When the club became Sporting Kansas City, Nielsen became one of the faces of the new era. In 2011, he started 31 league games and was named the club's most valuable player. Then came the best individual season of his career. In 2012, Nielsen helped Sporting Kansas City build one of the best defenses in the MLS. He became an MLS All-Star. He made the MLS Best 11, and at 35 years old, he was named MLS Goalkeeper of the Year. That same season, Sporting Kansas City faced Seattle in the US Open Cup final. The match went to penalties. Nielsen helped Kansas City win the shootout and deliver the club's first major trophy in 8 years. 1 year later, Sporting Kansas City reached the MLS Cup final. By then, Nielsen was not just their goalkeeper, he was their captain. He had played every minute of 100 straight MLS matches, including the playoffs. During the 2013 season, he led MLS goalkeepers with 19 wins and 14 clean sheets across league and playoff games. Then, in the final, he suffered 2 broken ribs. He kept playing. Sporting Kansas City equalized against Real Salt Lake. After 120 minutes in freezing weather, the title went to penalties. Nielsen saved 2. When Real Salt Lake's final shot hit the crossbar, Sporting Kansas City were champions. Nielsen had won the second league title of his career. The first came when he was 21 and thought success would last forever. The second came almost 15 years later, after addiction, debt, failed moves, and 3 attempts at rehab. 2 days after the final, Nielsen announced his retirement. He was 36. He left football as an MLS Cup-winning captain, a 2-time MLS All-Star, and a former MLS Goalkeeper of the Year. Jimmy Nielsen's story is not just about money. At his lowest point, gambling forced him to lie to almost everyone he loved. It drained his accounts, damaged his marriage, and it turned one of Denmark's best goalkeepers into someone standing outside a bathroom begging for a credit card. Years later, Nielsen said reading his own story felt like reading about another person. That is what makes his ending powerful. Kansas City did not erase what happened in Denmark, but it gave him the chance to be remembered for something else. Not as the goalkeeper who secretly owed more money than he could repay, but as the captain who played through broken ribs, saved 2 penalties, and lifted the final trophy of his career. For years, Jimmy Nielsen believed the next gamble would change his life. In the end, what changed his life was finally walking away.